Welcome to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. This is not your typical financial radio show. As a licensed CPA, insurance agent, and investment advisory representative, Chris coaches his clients on a holistic view of financial well-being with an objective of providing a complete financial strategy to fund life's goals. Chris is here to guide you down the path to the financial serenity you deserve. Now, here's Chris Cooper.
All right. Good morning. So last week on the show, we had Jim Brennan and Dave Porcelli, which is just fun to say, with McKelvey Homes talking about the home build process and some of the things that make McKelvey subdivisions and McKelvey communities just a little bit different. And so, you know what? We're doing this whole month of June. We're doing a whole home series thing that is kind of about that whole entire process. And really, you can't have that conversation without having a conversation about real estate needs and what that looks like and what that ends up meaning and how to make it work for you. And so our next guest, this show, we have Roy Doskal, RJD Realty, in here, studio with me today. Roy, you've been with us before. How are you, Roy?
Doing awesome.
Yeah, well, this is not new for you. You've been on here a few times with us, so thanks for coming back in.
Yeah. No, I always love our conversations, buddy. You know, we're always in here and we're just really, we're about the people.
It's always about the community.
We just help them
right?
with finances and homes. But
That's right.
People.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about, so Roy, you do this a lot, right? You've helped me do this as well. So you find that right place you want to be, right? And if you're a build process, that's fine. But there's still another side of it. You probably still have a house that you have today, right? So then now you find that right. And we just talked about this a little bit on air. What makes a house a home, it isn't the home you're in today. It's not the walls. It's the memories. It's the people, right? And I think that takes place whether it's your current house or your next one.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you see the same thing here all the time.
Yeah. I mean, we're going through personally selling our house at 28 years and, it's an emotional process.
Yeah.
We moved in before having kids. We raised our kids and now we're moving our home.
Yeah.
Which is what we can take with us, our family, to a different house.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you're looking at the new community you're part of, and that's pretty cool too. And meets a lot of the check boxes on your list, if you will.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really looking at a little 35, home community.
Yeah.
Weldon Spring Heights. And,
nice.
I'm hoping they're going to welcome me in as much as I want to be part of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Look, I know you're a big cyclist, so, being able to have access right to the Katy Trail to do the rides you like to do, I think makes a lot of sense as well.
Yeah.
And the greenways.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I love about our cyclists is, when I said that we're in a people business, right?
Yeah.
We just happen to be helping them with homes is, like-minded individuals, I mean, we all kind of know how to suffer and we know how to enjoy and it's just great community to work with.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So Roy, every home buyer is different. Every home seller is different, right? So you work with both, obviously. And, one thing when I'm selling my house, and I'll just talk a little bit about myself here. Hard to do, I know, talk about myself, right? So don't give me trouble. It's okay. So, I like control. I like control of my life. I like to give people control from a financial future perspective. I think it's important to have control, but I like control of a process. And I don't like negotiations. I don't like hassle. I don't like the pain of coming with it. All that different noise, right? Going to a car dealership and negotiating a car price just frustrates the heck out of me. I just like to know what I'm going to get, what I'm buying, what I have. Here's the options I want. What's it going to cost me? And when I'm going to sell my house, I kind of want those same kind of thought processes, right? I want to know, here's what my house is worth. Here's kind of the thought process. And it drives me nuts to not know where all that stuff's going to lie. So how do you help somebody like me that has that kind of anxiety with all these unknowns? Is there a different strategy involved?
So there's a lot of different strategies you can go down, and that's why it pays to be with a professional real estate advisor, somebody that's actually involved in real estate.
Full time.
We do flips.
Sure.
We know the housing market. We got a network of people that can take care of about anything that can come up that you need taken care of.
Yeah, right. You have a great Rolodex, by the way. We can call it the Royadex. How about that? That's awesome.
Yeah. So it is. It's fluid. I always say that unlike some that get paid advertisement for their Rolodex, my people have to perform. If they don't perform, they get substituted by somebody else that will
Sure.
perform. So to say, right? Because it's an extension of my rapport.
Right.
So if I'm sending somebody to you, I want them to be up to the same levels.
Right.
And they usually are.
Yeah.
A lot of my team and a lot of my people that I rely on, I can proudly refer them.
Sure. Sure.
But I would say that with every circumstance you go through, there's so many different moving parts. There's your buying power. Can you buy without selling? Do you have to sell to buy?
Right.
You know, how are we going to navigate that path for you? So to say, what I like to say is that we really want to be a good real estate advisor. You got to be a good listener. You got to sit down and understand what is their plan and their goals.
Right.
Or more so than anything, really, what is their goal? Because that's it. It's their goal. It's our job to help set and execute a plan to make that happen for them.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that you did with me was you encouraged me to, and I think, you know me, you know my style, you know what I'm all about and stuff. And so you encouraged us to get an appraisal done in advance and pay for that appraiser to come in and tell me some of the challenges with our current home that we needed to maybe look at, right? Or just say, hey, no, all this looks great, right? But that was important.
It wasn't an appraiser. It was a home inspector.
Home inspector. Sorry, appraiser.
I don't know if
you see, I'm not in this business, right? It's okay. So he's sitting there going, oh, guys, I said the wrong word. Sorry. Home inspector, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, the home appraisal is what the bank needs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I had an inspection in to me, this all sounds the same, right? So inspection comes in, they tell me what needs to happen. And that made me go, oh, okay, yeah, those things make sense to take care of. But I love the fact that I had that list. Now, to me, this was like my to-do list of things I need to take care of. But it made me feel like, hey, I have a little bit of control in this process. I know the things that are going to come up, and I don't have any of the surprises. Because I think that's the big thing with me is I don't like surprises. I like to, do what I can to give that peace of mind to people.
And that's it. You're not just giving yourself a peace of mind. You're giving the peace of mind to somebody that's actually saying, I want to buy your home.
Right.
You put a sign in your yard, you're saying, I don't want this anymore. And they're like, I think I want to buy your home.
But why don't you want it?
What am I buying? Yeah. What am I buying? Right. I mean, you have your seller's disclosure. You should fill that out. You have to fill that out. We can't touch that. You have to fill that out to your most honest, opinion on everything you have with it. If you're a no-nonsense person like yourself, then maybe it does pay for you to go ahead and pay and have another ASHI certified inspection done. Sure. It's just another person's opinion, but I think it does, especially when you're going to a market as a seller's market, and you've got a lot of buyers maybe coming in into a multiple offer situation. Yeah. And they're having to get creative too on what they want to waive or what they want to keep, which we never tell them that they should waive an inspection, but that's up to them if they want to. Sure. If you're giving them a good disclosure and you're paying then yourself as like, hey, I'm not telling you as is, but hey, I'm going above board on what I believe my house is. Right. There's certain things. I'm not an expert on heating and cooling. I'm not an expert on electric, but here's an expert, and this is what they said. Right. Yeah. So I think it does. It helps you go to the next level, which is basically your financial writer, and can kind of help you kind of get along with that inspection writer. To me, it just took away some of the noise. Yeah. Right. And I needed that because I'm like, in my mind, me, man, I move fast and I move on from something. Right. And so to me, I'm like, okay, well, I love my house. Loved it. It's a great place, but I've kind of moved on. I want to move on to the next home. Yeah. Right. That where my family's going to be. So for me, I wanted to already turn that page, but you can't just do that. You have to do some things to make sure that you get those things that need to take care of done for that next person as well. Yeah. And it streamlines it, like I said, for the whole process a little bit. Of course, they can still get their own inspection. Sure. That's the way the contract is. But it allows everybody to move down the road a little bit faster with that whole purchase and moving on. And with somebody that's actually doing a buy before selling, well, that's the thing you don't want, the noise. You want to try and eliminate as much of that noise as possible to get you to that closing table and get you moved into what was your goal, is this new house in this new place that you want to be without having all the rest of the noise to get to. Absolutely. There's enough stress, especially once you start getting to that point of now we have loan commitment, and now we got to move.
Yeah.
We got to pack everything up.
There's a lot.
Oh, there's a ton.
It's so much stuff.
Yeah, you don't want the hiccups at that end.
No. You need to get it all taken care of quickly, efficiently, smoothly, and that's where professionals can help along the way.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So you mentioned a little bit on the housing market, right? So housing market's kind of been crazy, and I would say it is that really that term seller's market is kind of a thing right now. And I think that still is today pretty much the truth, right?
Yeah. I mean, rates haven't gone where we wanted them to go yet.
Yep.
I think that your higher end market, you got people that have money, they know what they want, and rates don't matter quite as much.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that your middle market, let's say which is kind of crazy to start thinking that first time home buyers is over 250, like 354, somewhere in there now. I mean, it's just
damn inflation.
Where
it happens.
Go, yeah. But if you're in that market, that middle market, that 250 to 4, you could get a lot of things. You could get your first time home buyers. You could get a move up. You could get somebody who's downsizing, right? So there's a lot of buyers in that market,
right?
But that being said, they're not buying crud. Like they're even though it's a seller's market, they're still quite I'd say picky. Like if you see a home that has got everything buttoned up and everything nice, and they feel they can just move their furniture in and then live.
That's what people want.
That one's going to go crazy. If you're representing a buyer and they're wanting to buy that home, you better be conditioning them to take the gloves off.
Right.
So,
well, and you mentioned interest rates, and this is a real estate term that people say you're what is it? You're marrying the rate, you're marrying the property.
Date the rate.
You date the rate, right?
Yeah.
I knew I was going to mess that up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it kind of makes sense, right? Because you can always refinance an interest rate. Interest rates are going to change and shift, especially over a 30-year time frame. Yeah. So it's just the way it is. And quite frankly, high 6s, 7s, it's still, historically speaking, very reasonable interest rates.
Yeah. And that's coming from my personal thing where I had a 2.88 interest rate and I paid it off, and now I'm going to a different house. Right.
Yeah.
But the opportunity produced itself to me. We made a choice as a family. That's where we wanted to be. It checked off a lot of boxes on areas that we want to have this stage of our life to be in.
Sure.
I was lucky enough to lock into like a 6.67. I think it sounds lucky when it coming from a 2.88. It's kind of crazy to say, but I would say that if you're going to wait for rates to go down, then you better put some glass, and some glue on some tape around those knuckles instead of just going bare knuckled or taking the gloves off, because, once it goes, I mean, the buyer market's out there, the inventory is still low. The rates go down. I mean, it's just going to get nastier, you know? So that's where that kind of comes into that thing of marry the home, date the rate.
Yeah.
If you're going to wait till it's affordable, then let's think about it. It's affordable for all your competition as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a principle thing at times. I get that, especially, when you had that 2.8, I think mine was 2.875. Phenomenal, historic. Like, I don't think we'll ever see those rates again. I really don't. And I'm not sure that they were really great either, because it almost conditions you to think that that's that's normal. And that's not normal. Like, that's very, very, very low. Yeah. Maybe too low. I don't know. I enjoyed it. It's great. I'm going to miss it.
I'd like to see it pop in there for a minute. I'd jump on it. But it's a really tough thing. You hear some people say, and I have a lot of friends, because when you're in real estate, people always ask you about real estate.
Yeah.
All right. And they're like, well, we've been thinking about moving, but we're just kind of waiting. We had this rate, and I get it. It's cheap money. You don't want to let go of it. But again, I think you got to come up with your compelling reason to move at certain times when you're like us, when you're selling a house that you're completely comfortable with and can still do whatever you want to do.
Sure.
And you're just making a move. Now, the craziest thing about that is I have 7 families this year that I'm helping through that same process, the same crazy road that I feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I letting go of a house I just had paid off to have another mortgage? But it's the feel. it checks all the boxes. It's got staying power for us. It's a bigger home. I do think that we're going to see a little bit more of that. I think we're going to begin to see with the inflation and how home prices have gone. I think we're going to begin to see a little bit more of multiple generations in a home. Mm-hmm. You know, the grandparents being there.
Sure.
You know, kids being there for a little while.
Yeah.
Coming back and forth. You know, divorce being kind of the way it is. You know, there's just a lot of other life things that can happen.
Yeah.
That I could see that being the case too. You know, you need a bigger house.
Yeah.
So.
No, and that makes sense. And, you know, interest rates are only part of the equation, right? And there can be a big part, but they're just a part of the equation. Ultimately, you want to be in that part of that community and that piece, that place that feels like home, feels like the community you want to be a part of, right?
Yep.
So, all right. So, what other kinds of things do you think are very important to consider? And if you're thinking about this process and what might, you know, make some sense?
If you're thinking about the process of selling your home.
Yeah, whether it's selling, buying, the whole, to me, most of the time, they go very hand in hand, right? Now, I'm different. I've been there, I've owned homes for 20 something years. So for me, they do definitely go hand in hand. That's not for everybody, of course, but for a large piece of the audience, that is very much true.
Well, I guess first and foremost, I always come back to the fact that we're in the people business. Mm-hmm. So when you speak of real estate, there's a facet of real estate that can help everyone, whatever stage they're in life. So what I love to do is, even my first time home buyers, I love them. They come in, what do they really know? They don't know a whole lot about homes, right? I mean, right. And a lot of times you can say it goes, well, you might not really know much about a home until you're in your second or third home. Because you buy your first home for a place to live, and then you go, well, I wish I would have had a bigger master bedroom or a bigger bathroom.
Well, you know, it's true, Roy, because I'm building right now, right? And I don't think I could have built successfully what I'm building now without going through the 3-4 houses to know what I like, what I don't like, what I want, all the different choices. I wasn't ready to make those choices. And I think I would have made wrong choices. I definitely would have made different choices. But I think I'm making choices that make sense for my life now. Right. Because of that experience. Yeah.
And the thing that I try to do with our first time home buyers, I bring them in, we'll do a first time home buyer consultation. We involve our proven lenders that we have. We help them understand the contracts, understand what earnest money is, how things get applied, understand, you know, what inspections look like, help them understand scenarios, you know, what's cash to close, what's their pity payment, principal, interest, tax, and insurance.
Sure.
Because a lot of them don't get that either, you know. But just help them really understand what the budget looks like with things. Then we try to also get them with someone like yourself, right? Because obviously now they're acquiring more debt. It's good debt, but now we have debt as a family, and we need to look at life insurance and everything else that comes with it.
All the protections that come with it. Very important to consider. Because, and can you afford it? How's it going to look, right? What does that payment mean?
Yeah, you've got to be smart about the American dream, right? You know, and how you're going to sustain it.
Absolutely.
So
we talked about the American dream last week. So super true.
Yeah. And good debt and bad debt. Right?
I love the good debt, bad debt. And I think that using your home as collateral and, well, quite frankly, using somebody else's money to help you fund a home that you really enjoy and being a part of, the community you want to be a part of, it just makes sense. I mean, it's a huge, huge asset. Even if it's not the biggest asset you have, it's pretty darn close, and it's up there. So it just makes sense to use somebody else's collateral to help fund it, right? And that's okay.
Well, I use it for my good debt with my rentals, flips, everything.
Absolutely.
You know, rentals on my end is a business on its own. You know, so and I'm happy. Anybody that comes works with us, we call them, they're part of our community. We're happy to bleed into them on whatever that is. You know, when it comes to that down the road. If I've had several first-time home buyers that have worked with me that's ended up, you know, moving that into their rental property and moving into another home later. So, but anyhow,
but you talked about your first home buyer home consultation a little bit, and quite frankly, I'm listening to some of the things that you're talking about. I don't do this all the time, right? I'm, you know, mid-40s, I guess. Well, I'm old enough to where I've lost track. Let's just put it that way, Roy. And you know, I've not bought a lot of homes here. I've not sold a lot of homes. So maybe I've done this 4 times-ish, right? That's not a lot. So some of those things that you mentioned, bringing back in the new home buyer consultations, those are things that are kind of important to me too, because, you know, it's not like I've done this more than a handful of times. And so we lose track on that stuff. right? We lose track on all those. I called it an appraisal and inspection starting off the show. Yeah. You're like, that's the wrong word, dude. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. Like, I don't think about these things every day.
Well, and there's things you got to look at too with, the market, even that with the appraisal, you're saying an appraisal, like, is there certain things like what kind of market you're going to have? Are you going to have a VA? You're going to have FHA? Was there things that you got to worry about being predications? But again, with the first time home buyer, we try to educate them the best we can. And then what we do too, is we try to take our knowledge from the rentals, from the flips and the contractors we have and that kind of thing. Not that we're actually certified inspectors, but let's just say that they're going to get an inspection done on a home that they're going to buy. Well, we'd like to try and find some of the elephants in the room. Like, we like to help them understand, like, this is how you see how old your heating and cooling system is. And is the AC compressor, is it cleaned or is it dirty? Mm-hmm. Has it been well maintained? Right. Blown window seals, a lot of different things. Look for the non-sexy things for them to understand, not to drive them away from, for them to understand what they may have to deal with this property. Right. If there's an elephant in the room, I want to try to help them see what that is. Mm-hmm. Before they spend $600, $800, $1,000 to have an inspection done to mutual release because of it. Right. I don't think it's a great thing to do even for those sellers that you're going under contract with. If we already know something that's out there, we already see a foundation issue that's scary, let's just talk about it. Right. Before we enter into a contract with each other.
And foundations are always kind of the big thing that people worry about, right? Because foundation can be significant chunks of money to either fix as a buyer or as a seller to go, oh gosh, yeah, I have to get that foundation fixed for me to list my house, right? That can be a big ticket item. Yeah.
There's foundation things that can look scary like structural and they're not. Mm-hmm. Just a leak. I'm not a foundation expert. I'm a real estate broker, right? Yeah. But you see enough, you can just tell somebody and you can have an expert brought in, right? There's things you can do with any of that too, even to help out. Like if you're representing the buyer, to help out the seller and say they're working with you and they don't have 15 offers already in hand and we have to go through this process. If we see it, we can change, you change terms, conditions, that kind of thing. We can move around if we have to in the contract, and we could put, that part of an inspection up first if we want to. Sure. If we just talk with the other side and we're like, hey, I think there's a foundation issue. They think everything else is great with your home. Can we go ahead and write this offer? But before we move further with anything else, can we have this certain company come in and look at something, Yeah. So again, being in the people business, we're just dealing with the house, right? Because it's a stress. It's a stress on both sides. Absolutely. No matter what side you're representing, you're really wanting at some point to sing Kumbaya and make everything good, right? To help that stress.
Absolutely.
Right? So yeah, we do that with that. When you have families like us that are selling and moving, to a different home or a different location for whatever monetary, or not monetary, a compelling reason that they have for that, then that's when we want to listen to their story for their goal and then go back into, all right, let's formulate this plan based on what I see of your home, based on what I understand with your character and what you can deal with or what you want to deal with earlier than later, right? Surprises. So that's what we do with that. And we also work with the lender to help them understand how we got to navigate that process as well. Sure. Right. Some of us can buy that next house without selling and do a recast or something like that later on. Some of us have a ton of equity in our home, but we need that right to move to the next level. So we help them understand how to navigate that process. The best. So
well, and I think that's what's unique is it's kind of like wealth management, right? What I do at the end of the day, you're helping people do some investment things, but every situation is different. It really is not a cookie cutter approach. And really, when you think about real estate, you're buying, selling properties, but there's so much more that goes into it. And it really is that people effect and that people impact that really is what makes a difference.
I like to say that, like with us being a 24/7 real estate brokerage, like that's all we do. It's not a side gig for me. It's everything I do. I do the rentals because I don't have a 401k, right? And a lot of people begin to think that, real estate agents get paid too much money. But you got to realize that we have to pay taxes on that. We have to pay self-employment taxes. We get no benefits. Right. We get none. No.
You got to create your own retirement plan. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So it makes you think a little bit different about money and how you have
Absolutely.
to manage that and work with that, which should make you a better professional in helping somebody else manage their money as they're moving.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say that everything that I've been doing with the rental properties, dealing with tenants, I treat my tenants as if they're family, as long as they're paying on time all the time. Right. Kind of like your kids, right? You know, hey, don't make me be dad. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's right.
I love my tenants. My tenants are great. I love my rental properties. I love the flips that we do because we get to we come in and we have a family that is a probate situation or something. They've got an asset that need to get rid of. It probably has problems. We know how to fix those problems.
Right.
We get to put our community of all of my contractors to work.
The Rolodex.
They get, they get to all make money, putting sweat equity into a home that we're financing and managing and project managing and running. And then we get to turn another product over to the market for another family to come in and have new life into that home. I love that aspect of our business and what we do. But I'll tell you that moving after being in my home for 28 years, boxing up my life. Now, as you know, I'm in between homes. We're literally living out of our motorhome until June 1st when we take full possession. We get to take what we do own, or what we own the home, but what we have possession of is the garage and the in-law quarters, which is a storage unit. It's amazing. Going through another hailstorm, right? You know, there's a lot of things going on with this and a lot of moving parts that I was the advisor and would tell people, hey, don't worry. You're be kicking your feet up in another year. You're not even going to think about this, right?
Yeah.
My experiences that I go through with real estate help make me a better advisor for the community. And what I'm going through right now, I just have to laugh to keep from crying because it is an experience that's also given me more compassion for that process. And I have already told my agents, I'm like, hey, we do what we do. But as we get into this process of them from contract to close, we need to be surveying our clients a little bit more and just being there to be their friend, to
I love it.
That shoulder, right? To cry on, or like, hey, I've been there.
It's tough.
Yeah. So
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, you're with them through the thick of it, all the ups and all the downs. You get to share in all of it. So it's all about community. It always is. So Roy, thanks for being a guest today. Man, time flies whenever you're in studio. Yeah.
Well, hey, as far as being community, I've got a good friend of mine, Justin Bowen. We're doing a lot of community stuff with him. He's a race promoter. And we've got a lot of runs that they're doing. So we're going to be helping support some of that stuff. You should see our tent out there. Come say hi to one of my agents.
Love it.
Myself that's there. If you want to look at what he's got, you look at rockinatorracing.com. We are also doing another night ride at Indian Camp Creek, August 9th.
I'm going to be there for that. Absolutely.
Be part of that with us.
Yeah.
Been trying to develop this and it is. I appreciate everyone that comes out. We do a t-shirt for each year now so that everybody has a little bit of swag to take away. They're nice t-shirts. They're soft t-shirts.
You do a good job with those.
But we're going to try to do some more fun stuff out there and just see what we can do August 9th.
It'll be fun. All right, Roy, thanks for coming in. Thanks for all the help and being a part of this St. Louis in general community.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you not just being my financial advisor, but being my friend.
Here you go, buddy.
All right.
Folks, home ownership, it's important. It is, most of us, it's what we want to do. It's that American dream, right? To own your own home. We've felt this way since we founded this country. You know, the whole search for land in the wild, wild west, right? It created a whole movement and it still exists today. We want to own our own homes. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do that alone. There is good debt. There is bad debt. You can finance. Use a bank to help you leverage the ability to get the house you deserve, the house you want, as long as you can make sure you make those payments and afford the maintenance, right? It's not just as simple as using the principal and interest and letting the bank take care of the rest. No, you have to be able to make sure you have good sense of home ownership as well. Location's important because we want to be part of those communities. Those communities are important. In fact, it's the basis of what I do. Roy talked about it too. Really, financial professionals, investment professionals, real estate professionals, we can all help our communities make better financial decisions and the right real estate decisions for their needs, right? Use our expertise. It's what we're here for. But at the end of the day, we serve our communities. This is a people-centric business. So what you'll hear as we continue along this sequence, every business we talk to ends up being a people business. And you know what? Most businesses I talk to, that's exactly what makes them successful as well. So if you need some peace of mind, you want to understand what's in your real estate budget, what your home situation looks like, or any other investment kind of concerns you might have, come on in. Let's have a good conversation and find out what drives you and what your goals and concerns are. Check us out, SerenityWealthNow.com, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Serenity Now!
This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.